Good afternoon. My name is Tamara, and I'm the owner of RuckWood Recovery LLC, a licensed and registered Heirfinder service located within St. Louis, Missouri, serving the whole of Missouri regarding tax foreclosure, surplus, and unclaimed property claims. We do prep and submission, and we are so happy that you are tuning into this video. If you need any more information at the end of this video, please visit www.ruckwoodrecovery.com, shoot us an email at ruckwoodrecovery@gmail.com, or give us a call at 314-692-4272. Any number of our representatives are happily standing by to answer as many questions as you like. All right, so the purpose of this video is to help you make your decision when choosing an Heirfinder. It can be a tough decision. It can be a very tough decision, especially due to the way that we reach out to individuals. It's extremely confusing. There's a lot of scams going on. There's a lot of bad actors out there. And what RuckWood Recovery likes to focus on too is trust and community more than anything. So we want to have that, give Heirfinders a good name. One of the things that I did recently was representing Heirfinders at the inaugural ball and the inauguration of our governor and our state treasurer, as well as the lieutenant governor and a few others that got inaugurated that day. But being able to talk with our representatives was amazing. And, you know, the guy whose name is on our checks for Heirfinders. So, yeah, that was incredible. So anyway, choosing an Heirfinder can be a really, really tough decision, and I want to help you in making that decision by giving you a few questions, not only to ask yourself, but to ask the Heirfinders. So I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible because I actually made a video before this, but it was about 30 minutes long, so I'm going to try to make this one just a bit shorter because I know some folks, they got stuff to do. If you're not from Missouri, by all means, you can just listen. Maybe your state's similar, but this is for Missouri specifically, Missouri residents specifically. So feel free to listen, and also feel free to put us in your ear. That's fine. All right, so to start, the very first question. So you're sitting at home, you get a phone call, you get an email, you get a text, someone knocks on your door. And sometimes that's warranted to knock on the door because there's no forwarding address, there's really no information. There's a last known address, and then there's what can be found by searching somebody or doing what we call skip tracing. And sometimes information can't be found, so sometimes we gotta go knock on the door, right? But if there's a no solicitation sign, obviously we're not gonna knock on the door. But somebody contacts you saying, hey, you're entitled to, or we believe you may be entitled to, or you might be the beneficiary of some tax foreclosure surplus or some unclaimed property. What should you do? First question to ask yourself and to ask the Heirfinder, is this Heirfinder licensed and registered through the state? So are they licensed to even operate within the state of Missouri? And that's through the Secretary of State. And are they licensed and registered through your Missouri State Treasury? And I'll tell you why. Businesses that are licensed to operate in the state of Missouri, you can always check the Secretary of State website and search that business up, right? You can always find an address. You should be able to find an address, a local address for that particular business. But you also find out that you're working with a legitimate business. And also, you can look at those articles of operation and see if that business is even licensed to even do what they're doing. So that's a good way to check for legitimacy. So to see if you're dealing with a legitimate business. Licensing with the Missouri State Treasury. You want to make sure that you're dealing with a licensed and registered Heirfinder. The main reason for this is because the Unclaimed Property Division, the State Treasury, does not accept claims or will not process claims that are submitted on a Missouri resident's behalf by an unlicensed or unregistered Heirfinder. So you don't want to get caught getting your claim denied. Another part of registration too as well, that treasury registration. An Heirfinder should give you their registration number willingly. They should never withhold it from the claimant, ever. So always ask for that right away. You shouldn't have to coax it out of them. They should give it. When we at RuckWood Recovery, when we reach out, we give our Heirfinder registration immediately upon contact, even in our text messages, our emails, our mail, and that way we also give the treasury number, the Missouri State Treasury number, so they can call, so the claimant, possible claimant, can call and verify with the Treasury prior to reaching back out to us. We want them to have the absolute and utmost trust in our abilities and our legitimacy. So that's what we do. And that registration with the Treasury also, it means that that Heirfinder or that company is abiding by the Missouri State Treasury guidelines, as well as the state statute, which is RSMO 447.500 from 500 to 595. That is also posted on the RuckWood Recovery website. So if you want to read that, and see what your rights are as a claimant and what rules we're supposed to follow are, by all means, check out the website. We give that information to you so you don't have to seek it out. So anyway, that is the first question. You want to make sure you're dealing with licensed and registered individuals who are going to follow the laws. Excuse me. 2, are they local? All right, so the second question, are they local? If somebody knocks on your door, obviously they're local. But if they did knock on your door and they reached out to you via text message, email, or just regular mail, you want to make sure that you look that business up and find out if they're local, or ask them if they're local. You should be able to find a legitimate business address or a P.O. box within your state or county. You never want to deal with somebody from out of state, because out of state entities do not abide by, and they tend to not abide by, Missouri state laws. One of the biggest reasons why I advise Missouri residents not to use out-of-state entities is one of the reasons they're even reaching out, an out-of-state entity would even reach out to a Missouri resident, is because their state is restricting the amount that they can charge claimants for a contingency fee. So they want to make more money, so they're reaching out of state to try to find business. The problem with that is Missouri has rules and regulations and laws on how much claimants can be charged. So, and those out-of-state entities also use outside contracts, which are outside of the Missouri State Treasury. They will do that. They won't submit it to the Treasury, but they will keep it for their records so they can try to file a lawsuit if you sign with an out-of-state entity and you find out that they're not supposed to be charging you more than 20%, which is the cap for unclaimed property. And you say, no, I'm only going to pay you 20%, even though I signed your contract for 40%. They will literally try to take you to court in order to get that additional 20% from you. So you don't want to get caught doing that. A licensed and registered and local Heirfinder, and mind you, out-of-state entities cannot be registered with the Missouri State Treasury. They have to have a physical address within the state of Missouri. All of their employees have to be located within Missouri as well. So for tax foreclosure surplus, it's a little more vague, but I still, when it comes to tax foreclosure surplus, an out-of-state firm or entity is not going to be able to serve you like a local Heirfinder. A local Heirfinder is going to be able to have access to your data, the database of the recorder of deeds. They're going to be able to have access to tapestry, access to, to court records, to be able to find out for probate. They're going to have access to the attorneys, the local attorneys. You just want to make sure that you're using a local Heirfinder. So, and you also, what RuckWood Recovery prides ourselves on too as well, is that in-person presence. We love meeting people face to face. That's one thing we love doing. I can't tell you, I love meeting my elderly clients. For some odd reason, they want to meet at Denny's, and I got no problem talking about it over a Grand Slam or a cup of coffee. Like, or making a house call. Making a house call is even fun, even more fun, because you get to meet the family that you're working with. So, or they know that you're able to get things done. You're not having to call around. You're able to do it in person, which is fantastic. Now, have we had situations where the original owner of the property, whether it's unclaimed property or tax foreclosure surplus, has passed away and their heirs are located in a different state? Yes, we have. But for those folks, we have not in person, but video Zoom calls where the camera is on and they can see us and we verify identity. So, are they local is the second question. And if you see me looking down, it's because I don't want to miss anything. So, just know I want to get on every point. Number 3, how much information are they providing you? Do they have a website? Is their process laid out? Are they informing you of your rights as a claimant? Are they informing you of the laws that they're supposed to abide by? Are they informing you of your rights to file a claim unassisted? One thing they should never do, an Heirfinder should never, and under no circumstances, tell you that you cannot file a claim unassisted. You 100% have the right to file unassisted. And our website, RuckWood Recovery's website, says in big red letters that you have the right to file unassisted, without the assistance of a third party. However, it is more difficult and more time consuming to do it by yourself, especially with tax foreclosure surplus, but it is definitely with unclaimed property. There are exceptions, and that is if the amount is under $5,000 with the unclaimed property division, it is much easier. You can just do that online. I'm going to say if it's just a small amount under $5,000, under $5,000, by all means, do it online. If anyone wants to call us and ask, hey, can you help us with that unclaimed property, it's $4,000, it's under that $5,000 threshold, we're not going to ask them to sign a contract or anything like that. We're just going to give them the information. That's it. That's literally it. Who wants to pay 25% of $5,000? It just make it make sense. You know what I mean? So it's easy to do online by yourself for sums under $5,000. But once you reach that $5,000 threshold with unclaimed property, it becomes a lot more difficult. And the Treasury, when it comes to regular claimants, they just operate via mail. So then it's just going to go back and forth of you not knowing what you're supposed to do or what you're supposed to turn in. And it ends up becoming just a cluster. So if you have a larger amount, I would say seek out the assistance of an Heirfinder, or even if you have a smaller amount of unclaimed property, by all means, you can call an Heirfinder and ask for help. And I would just say no Heirfinder worth their salt is going to ask you to sign a contract for $5,000 or under, because that's something you really, really can do by yourself with very little resistance from the Treasury or from the county. So just to let you know that. How much information are they providing you? And are they being transparent? Are they being transparent with their registration status? There we go. Number 4, are they working on contingency? Are they asking you for money at any point during the claims process? Are they asking you for an assignment fee up front? Are they asking for a retainer? Are they asking for anything? Saying, hey, if you give us $5,000 right now, we'll get you $100,000 later. I personally would hang up the phone on somebody like that. Because registered and licensed Heirfinders in the state of Missouri who are registered with the Missouri State Treasury, we sign an agreement and we sign an oath that we are going to work on contingency only, meaning the claimant bears no risk throughout the claims process. We don't get paid unless the claimant gets paid, and that's how that is supposed to work. For tax foreclosure surplus, it's a different story. However, RuckWood recovery follows the same rule because the tax foreclosure surplus law, sorry, the tax foreclosure surplus law and statute, RSMO 140.230, is so vague that folks can take advantage of that. Until we decide to follow the same guidelines for unclaimed property that we do for tax foreclosure surplus that we do for unclaimed property. So that is a decision that we made, a conscious decision we made, because we will never expect somebody who went through a foreclosure to cough up money off the bat. It is up to the Heirfinder to cover the cost of that claim and get paid later on. The Heirfinder takes on the risk, period. So are they asking you for money? You should never have to come out of pocket. And even if they have to go to vital records, if your Heirfinder has to go to vital records, they're coughing up the cost of that. They're coughing up the cost for attorneys. They're coughing up the cost for notary fees. They're coughing up the cost for travel. They're going to cough up the cost for everything. Under no circumstances should a claimant have to pay a dime throughout the claims process. So that's number 4. Number 5. How much work are they requiring you as a claimant to do? If you want to give information, like if you have a birth certificate if you're an heir and you have a birth certificate with your mother's name on it and you can provide that to them without having to go into storage and search for it or go up to the health department and get it, by all means, provide your Heirfinder with whatever documentation you have available, readily available. Anything beyond something that you have readily available is the job of the Heirfinder to obtain on their own. When you sign the contract, when you sign that very limited power of attorney, very limited, and it should state limited or special power of attorney, when they're given those specific authority to get those documents for you, it is their job. Under no circumstances should a claimant have to go to vital records and get a birth certificate, death certificate, or anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Under no circumstances should a claimant have to go up to the county probate office or to the recorder of deeds to search a deed for tax foreclosure surplus. Your Heirfinder should have access, should have and maintain access to the recorder of deeds database and to tapestry and to genealogy databases. There's no reason why a claimant should have to pay for any of those services themselves. It is up to the Heirfinder to have and maintain their access to those databases. So just know that. Number 6, what are they charging? A lot of out-of-state Heirfinders are going to call and tell you, hey, if we're going to charge you if you sign this contract or go with us, we're going, and there's other ones too, even ones that are in-state, especially for tax foreclosure surplus, because like I said, the law is so vague that some Heirfinders will price gouge when it comes to contingency. However, and those price gougers are charging 30 up to 60%, which cannot be justified. RuckWood Recovery sticks to, for tax foreclosure surplus, we stick to 20% for non-probate claims and 25% for probate claims. And the 25% is to cover the cost of the attorney that we pay up front. So everything is covered under the contingency. And mind you, we don't get paid. We're taking on the risk. We don't get paid unless the claim is successful. So for unclaimed property, the Missouri State Treasury sets the bar, and they set it at 20%, which is why we stick with 20% over on this side for the tax foreclosure surplus and 25% for probate. But the unclaimed property division keeps a cap at 20%. So they enforce that. Out of state and licensed and registered Heirfinders know this. So you're never, for a licensed and registered Heirfinder, they should never charge you more than 20%, or else the Treasury is just going to kick that claim back and say, no, thank you. We're not going to process this. You need to lower your contingency fee. But if they decide to ask you, like I said, the out-of-state ones will ask you to do sometimes, is to sign another outside contract agreeing to pay them more. I would advise not to do that, because they can always file a lawsuit on you to recover those additional funds from you, which you do not want to go through. It will leave you in litigation. It could be years and a huge waste of your time and money. And another thing that we don't do, so like I said, just stick to, if anybody's charging you above 25%, well, 20% for unclaimed property, 25% for tax foreclosure surplus, I wouldn't sign the contract. I wouldn't agree to it. Now, attorneys sometimes charge 33.33%. That's on the attorney. Attorneys are the exception if they do handle claims like that, but most of the time they don't. So that's why Heirfinders exist. But here's the thing though, when it comes to an attorney, you're gonna have to pay that most on a retainer. So that's why our state decided that Heirfinders should be licensed and registered, and they give us the database specifically for the purpose of reaching out to folks and helping them and working on a contingent basis only, because not everybody can afford a retainer fee upfront or any kind of upfront cost for probate. So that's why we take on the risk as Heirfinders, legitimate Heirfinders, okay? And one thing I forgot to mention, the fee should never change. If you signed a contract in the beginning for 20%, and that Heirfinder, some unforeseen circumstances happened through your claim, right? And they decide to ask you to sign for more of a contingency fee because of the unforeseen circumstances, you have every right to back out of that contract. Their fee should never change. If you signed a contract to pay 20% at the beginning, then 20% is what you should be paying at the end. And even then, it's not the claimant that pays. It's not the claimant that's paying. It's the county that's writing the checks and for tax foreclosure surplus, and the Missouri State Treasury that's sending out separate checks for the claimant and the Heirfinder. So it shouldn't change. Okay? So anyway, those are 6 questions to ask yourself and the Heirfinder. So number 1 is, are they licensed and registered with your state treasury and a licensed business with your Secretary of State? Number 2 is, are they local? All right? So you want to stick with local because, well, in order to get that license and registration, they have to be local. And you want them to be able to serve you properly as well. Number 3, how much information are they providing? Are they withholding information? And also, as far as withholding information, are they being transparent about the sum of money that is available or on the table? The contract should state exact dollar amounts. They should never withhold that from the claimant. Just know that. Number 4, did they ask you for money? If they ask you for money, run. If there's any cost throughout the claims process, run. Number 5, how much work are you required to do? It is not the claimant's job to do the work. It is not the claimant's job to do the genealogy or heir tracing. It is not the claimant's job to hunt down documents. It is not the claimant's job to have to sign on to any database or communicate with the county or the treasury. It is the Heirfinder's job. Do not do the Heirfinder's job. It is the Heirfinder's job to do everything. The only thing the client should have to do is sign some paperwork, giving the Heirfinder the authorization to do their job on their behalf. And that is it. The claimant sits back and lets the Heirfinder work. Period. Okay? And number 6, what are they charging, and can that fee change? You want somebody who is going to abide by the state laws, which legitimate Heirfinders do, or else they're going to lose their license and registration. And for tax foreclosure surplus, are they charging an unreasonable fee? And in my opinion, in the opinion of RuckWood Recovery, 30% and above is an unreasonable fee. So there's no justification for it. So anyway, like I said, you know, choosing an Heirfinder can be a difficult task, but this is our job, and, you know, I love it, and my reps who work under me, they love it. So yeah, these are just a few questions to ask yourself and ask your Heirfinder when choosing an Heirfinder. And if you see these red flags, run. You know what I mean? So if you have more questions after this video, please visit www.ruckwoodrecovery.com. Shoot us an email at ruckwoodrecovery@gmail.com, or give us a call at 314-692-4272. Any one of our representatives is standing by to answer whatever questions that you have. And we hope that you have a beautiful day. Take care.